As opposed to Hall's cognitive theory of dreaming, which I'll outline in a moment, there are also some weaker and more dismissible competing perceptual views on dreaming. And in these perceptual theories of dreaming, it was common for researchers to think of dreaming as a kind of faulty perception. So, from this view, dreaming only occurs when the sleeper becomes sensitive to external or body stimuli. So, for example, while they're sleeping in bed, they may feel a slight breeze on their face, or hear the sound of a passing car, or feel a cramp in their stomach. And dreams are just dreamers' attempts to interpret and make sense of that stimulus. So, for example, that perception or sensation of a breeze on your face while you're sleeping could manifest itself into a part of your dream, such as falling or wind gliding, to explain within the dream why you're experiencing that external stimulus in real life while you're sleeping. So there may be some truth to perceptual theories of dreaming, like you may be woken up by your alarm going off in real life or someone telling you to wake up, and within your dream, as you're being woken up, you can hear the sound of your alarm in the dream world, or the sound of that person as if they're the voice of God speaking from above while you're still in the dream world. So many aspects of perceptual stimuli from the real world do make their way into our dreams, but you can't explain everything in your dream through what you're physically perceiving while sleeping. Like, according to this theory, one could hypothetically sleep in one of those sensory deprivation chambers or water tanks in which there is zero sensory stimulation. And as a result of this, according to this theory, you wouldn't dream at all because there's nothing hitting your senses for your sleeping mind to then attempt to interpret while dreaming. When in actuality, it's the opposite. Those tanks and chambers are used for the purpose of facilitating very vivid dreams. So, contrastingly, Hall's cognitive theory of dreaming posits that dreaming is a cognitive process as opposed to a perceptual process in which conceptions, that is ideas and thoughts and values and items of knowledge and meanings, are turned into perceptions, that is images and sounds and sensory stimuli experienced in your dream. So everything we perceive and experience in a dream is a product of our cognition and our brain's inner workings, so that the images of a dream are the embodiment of our thoughts. Dreams are a medium through which a psychological process, cognition, is transformed into a form that can be perceived by us, that is, our dream images. So in our everyday waking life, the usual process of conscious thinking involves first perceiving some sort of external sensory stimulus, like a signifier, which then evokes certain thoughts and concepts in a process of turning perceptions into conceptions. So, for example, you could look outside your window and see a snow-covered landscape. And this perception, this image of snow hitting your eyes, not the snow itself, but the image of it, evokes various concepts, such as the idea of the winter season and days getting shorter, and maybe Christmas coming up, or icy driving conditions, or school cancellations and snow days, or maybe sledding or ice hockey, or childhood memories of building a snowman, or maybe a winter-themed movie that you remember. That's how our everyday waking cognition works. It turns perceptions into conceptions. It turns the thing you perceive into the things you think. But dreaming entails the exact inverse of this cognitive process of conscious everyday thinking, where conceptions, such as our conscious and unconscious thoughts and ideas, are being turned into perceptions, what we experience in our dreams. So instead of taking something perceivable or perceptible and rendering it conceivable, dreams take what's conceivable and render them perceptible through our dreams. So it's taking our thoughts and turning them into images. Dreams turn signifieds into signifiers. So maybe you've been thinking a lot about winter Maybe you've been looking forward with anticipation to winter, or maybe you've been dreading the onset of winter. And those lingering thoughts of either excitement or anxiety could then be turned into perceptions in your dreams if those conceptions take the form of a dream where you find yourself in a snowy environment, for better or for worse. So perceptual theories see dreams as products of our perceptions, especially of things which the brain at rest then filters into our conceptions. So perceptual theories would say that dreaming is just kind of like a continuation of thinking. It's the same process of experiencing a sensory stimuli and then turning it into a conception as the form of a dream. So according to perceptual theory, the only way you can dream about being in a snowy environment is to be very cold while you're sleeping. Like your bedroom would be very cold, or God forbid there's a hole in your ceiling and snow is literally falling on your face. And then according to perceptual theory, you would then dream to turn those perceptions into dream thoughts. Whereas cognitive theory goes the inverse direction. It sees these perceptions we experience in our dreams, the images and sights and sounds and experiences in a dream, as being the products of our cognition, of turning thoughts into what we perceive in a dream. So that which is invisible, namely a conception, becomes visible when it is transformed into a dream image. So remember that example of a tree being drawn on a piece of paper. Our sleeping minds have the idea of a tree, a thought of a tree, and they give that idea, that thought, that conception a perceptible form by figuratively drawing it in our dream. So the images we perceive in our dreams are pictures of our conceptions, albeit distorted pictures of what we may be truly thinking. And although the dream is created mentally, the dream itself is experienced as life rather than as thought. So in everyday waking life, your thoughts are just these things floating in your head. But when you're dreaming, those thoughts manifest themselves in actual things that you can see and touch in your dreams, as if they were sensory stimuli, and as if the dream world you're inhabiting is tantamount to the real physical world. So from this, according to Hall, a dream is a succession of images, predominantly visual in quality, but could also include more auditory hallucinations or visceral sensations, such as hearing things in your dream or experiencing falling within a dream, even though you're not falling in real life, hopefully not. And these images and sounds and sensations are experienced during sleep. Dreams commonly have one or more scenes and several characters in addition to the dreamer, and a sequence of actions and interactions, usually involving the dreamer in some way. So it resembles a motion picture or dramatic production in which the dreamer is a participant observer. So you're not just passively watching your own thoughts as they take place in a perceptible dream form in front of you in your dream. You're involved and invested and are actively participating in your dream, not just as a viewer, but as a character who's playing their own role. Although a dream is a hallucination, like it's not actually happening in a physical material reality, the dreamer experiences it as if they were to experience any perceptual phenomenon. Scenes and people and objects and actions are experienced as though they were impressing themselves on the senses from the external world. Like I said, you live in your dreams. It feels as if you're physically inhabiting the dream world as you experience it and even remember it, albeit in scattered fragments. The parts of dreams that you remember, they're almost as real as memories. Like there's not much practical distinction between your memory of an event that happened to you in real life and your memory of an event that happened to you in a dream. And this might be where the phenomenon of a déjà vu comes from. Another common experience where you suddenly feel as if a moment in your life has already happened. Like you could swear that you've already experienced that exact same moment in the past, it could just be a false memory from something we experienced in our dreams. So the world of dreams is a world of pure projection of the mind, but it does a great job at making it feel as immersive and real as possible. So for C.S. Hall, dreaming is a cognitive activity, and a dream is a pictorial representation of the dreamer's unconscious conceptions. And dream interpretation consists of discovering the conceptions that lie behind the dream images. Dreams are a show that the subconscious mind puts on for a person's conscious perception. When thought is made perceptible, it's said to be communicated. But unlike the communications of waking life, which may have an audience of millions, the audience of a dream consists of only one person, the dreamer themselves, you. A dream is a highly private showing of the dreamer's thoughts. And just like you can analyze a film to figure out what the makers of that film intended for their messages and meanings, we can take this show that the subconscious puts on for us, and we can take the perceptions that it shows us and try to find out the conceptions that produced those perceptions. So our conceptual systems are what we use to interpret our everyday experiences and guide our behaviors. It's those mental frameworks and schematics for interpreting and classifying and categorizing anything we perceive. But there's a lot we don't know about our own conceptual systems and how we unconsciously form connections between various concepts or figures in our life. So that the goal of dream interpretation is to discover the conceptual systems of the dreamer and the connections that are being unconsciously made. Like I mentioned with the Freud example of representation, how you might be making unconscious conceptual connections between your neighbor and your friend and your dad, and your dream might show you peaks of that and glimpses of that, so that dreams allow us to take a peek under the hood, so to speak, of these conceptual systems to figure out what makes us tick and what kind of interconnected conceptual networks we're using to form our conceptions in the first place and to operate in everyday waking life. And like I said, our unconscious minds, the synapses being connected within our brains that we're not consciously aware of, determine a lot of who we are and what makes us who we are and what we know about ourselves and how we act and conduct ourselves in everyday life. So one conceptual network may consist of the conceptions that a person has of their family, but this network may in turn be interconnected with other conceptual networks operating in our brain, with networks of ideas about government or religion or education. So for Hall, it is the task of psychology and dream interpretation to explore these conceptual systems that shape our personal ideologies and to show how they are interrelated and to learn how they've developed over time and to demonstrate how they control and regulate our conduct and discover how they may be changed.